Brussels, Belgium, September 23, 2025. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte has urged caution following reports of unidentified drone flights over Denmark, emphasising that it is still too early to determine whether Moscow was involved. Speaking at a press conference in Brussels, Rutte balanced careful diplomacy with a pointed warning about Russia's recent conduct in European airspace. The incident comes at a time of heightened tension between NATO and Russia following a series of incursions into Allied airspace on NATO's eastern flank. Denmark, a frontline state in terms of monitoring Russian activities in the Baltic and North Seas, is currently investigating what could be a significant breach of its security environment. Reports emerged that 3 to 4 large drones were detected in Danish airspace, causing disruptions around key areas, including Copenhagen's international airport. While Danish authorities have yet to confirm the origin of these flights, the suspicion immediately drew attention due to a pattern of aggressive Russian maneuvers near NATO borders in recent months. Mark Rutte directly addressed the situation. He said, "I was just on the phone with the Danish Prime Minister. Of course, there's talk now of 3 big drones creating big difficulties in Danish airspace, including the capital's airport. And the Danes are at this moment exactly assessing what happened to make sure what is behind this. We are in very close contact on this, so it is too early to say to answer your second question." This statement underscores the uncertainty surrounding the incident. While speculation about Russian involvement is strong, NATO leadership is careful to avoid premature conclusions. For Denmark, one of NATO's key northern members, the possibility of unauthorized drone activity around its busiest airport is more than symbolic. It raises concerns about both civilian safety and military vulnerability. NATO's position on Russian airspace violations beyond the drone issue, Rutte did not hesitate to condemn Russia's broader behaviour. Over the past several weeks, Russian military aircraft have repeatedly flown near or into NATO airspace across the Baltic region. These violations, sometimes intentional, sometimes ambiguous, have led to increased NATO air policing missions and rapid scrambles by Allied jets. Rutte described the behaviour in blunt terms. He said, "Clearly, what the Russians are doing is not acceptable. If it is intentional or not, at least it is reckless, and it should stop. Absolutely." And what they will see now over the last couple of weeks is that whatever happens, we are there. The NATO chief's language, frank and uncompromising, signals both disapproval and deterrence. By calling Russian conduct reckless, Rutte avoided labelling it definitively as deliberate aggression, but left no doubt about the dangers it poses. The reference to NATO's consistent presence reinforces the alliance's readiness to respond swiftly to any provocation. The drone flights underscore Denmark's critical role within NATO. Geographically, Denmark sits at the entrance to the Baltic Sea, controlling access to the strategically vital waters that connect Russia's Baltic fleet in Kaliningrad and St. Petersburg with the North Sea and Atlantic. Any disruption of Danish airspace not only threatens its own sovereignty, but also challenges NATO's broader deterrence posture. For Copenhagen, the alleged drone activity represents more than a local security concern. The Danish government, already increasing defence spending and military readiness in response to Russia's war in Ukraine, now faces direct pressure to address threats over its territory. While officials have yet to publicly accuse Moscow, the implications of such activity point unmistakably eastward. Rutte's assurance of close coordination with Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen highlights NATO's unified approach. The alliance often emphasises collective defence, and moments like this illustrate why an incursion over one member's airspace is treated as a challenge to the entire bloc. The reported drone flights cannot be viewed in isolation. They come amid a wider series of confrontations between Russia and NATO following Moscow's ongoing war in Ukraine, its military build-up in the Arctic, and aggressive air and sea manoeuvres around NATO's northern and eastern borders. Since early 2025, NATO has recorded dozens of instances of Russian aircraft entering or approaching Allied airspace without proper transponders, raising the risk of accidents or confrontations. In recent weeks, Estonia, Latvia and Poland all reported similar incidents. Analysts note that these tactics test NATO's response times and aim to project Russian power close to Allied borders. For NATO, such actions amount to a deliberate campaign of intimidation. Even if unarmed drones were behind the latest Danish disruption, the symbolism is stark. Russia, or any actor behind the incident, demonstrates that it can unsettle civilian and military systems in the heart of Europe. Rutte's remarks carefully balanced two imperatives: not jumping to premature conclusions and maintaining a strong deterrent signal to Moscow. His insistence that it is too early to say whether Russia is directly responsible reflects NATO's need for accuracy before escalation. At the same time, his declaration that Russia's actions are reckless and should stop sends a clear warning. This balancing act is typical of NATO communications in moments of uncertainty. The alliance often emphasizes transparency and fact-finding while reinforcing unity and readiness. By referencing his direct call with Denmark's leader, Rutte underscored the immediacy of NATO's internal coordination and its political solidarity. The rise of drones, military and commercial, poses a growing challenge for NATO countries. Unlike traditional fighter jets, drones can fly at lower altitudes, evade radar detection, and create confusion in civilian air traffic corridors. Large drones, like those reportedly seen over Denmark, can disrupt airports and raise concerns about sabotage or surveillance. For NATO, the proliferation of drones has already become a key security concern. Russian forces have used drones extensively in Ukraine, while Western militaries continue to expand their own fleets. But unauthorized drone activity over Allied capitals carries an additional symbolic weight, highlighting vulnerabilities in urban centres far from active battlefields. Mark Rutte, the former Dutch Prime Minister who took office as NATO Secretary General earlier this year, has quickly found himself dealing with high-stakes crises. Known for his pragmatic style, Rutte has combined diplomatic caution with firm rhetoric since assuming the role. His statements in Brussels reflect this approach, avoiding unverified accusations while signalling NATO's readiness. His reassurance that we are there reinforces the central purpose of the alliance. For member states like Denmark, this means that their concerns are not addressed in isolation, but as part of a collective security architecture that binds North America and Europe together. For now, Danish authorities are continuing their investigation into the drone flights. Experts expect radar data, eyewitness reports, and intelligence assessments to determine whether the drones were state-operated, commercially modified, or potentially linked to Russia. Until then, NATO will withhold judgment while preparing for the possibility of deliberate interference. If confirmed as Russian activity, the incident could provoke fresh NATO responses, including increased air policing missions over Denmark, enhanced radar coverage, or even joint military exercises to deter further provocations. Already, NATO has ramped up its air patrols across the Baltic region, signalling resolve to defend every inch of Allied territory. The Brussels press conference revealed both uncertainty and determination. Mark Rutte's careful phrasing showed NATO's unwillingness to speculate, but also its refusal to tolerate any erosion of Allied security. His words, while measured, carried a clear warning to Moscow. He said, "I was just on the phone with the Danish Prime Minister. The Danes are at this moment exactly assessing what happened to make sure what is behind this. We are in very close contact on this, so it is too early to say." He said, "Clearly, what the Russians are doing is not acceptable. If it is intentional or not, at least it is reckless, and it should stop, absolutely. And what they will see now over the last couple of weeks is that whatever happens, we are there." Together, these statements frame the core of NATO's message: patience in assessment, firmness in response, and unwavering solidarity with its members. As Denmark investigates the drones over its airspace, the world waits to see whether this is yet another episode in Russia's escalating confrontation with NATO, or the sign of a new front in Europe's unfolding security crisis.
Good afternoon.
After what you said and after reading the statement,
reasons why we launched Eastern Sentry is to make sure, and for waiting a little bit longer because the meeting was very good, but it took also a bit longer. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
To your second question, I was just on the phone with the Danish Prime Minister, of course. There's talk now of 4 big drones who create 3 big drones creating big difficulties in Danish airspace, including the capital's airport. And the Danes are at this moment exactly assessing what happened to make sure what is behind this. We are in very close contact on this, so it is too early to answer your second question. Activities. Clearly, what the Russians are doing is not acceptable. If it is intentional or not, at least it is reckless. And it should stop, absolutely. And what they will see now over the last couple of weeks is that whatever happens, we are there. And